how I finally ended 40 years of daily pain. In this video, I'm going to talk about my life history of tension headaches, really bad tension headaches that I suffered for 40 years. I'm 56 now. And about a year ago, just past March, a year ago this past March, I experienced what I've coined my pain liberation day. 40 years obviously is a long time. And so I recall being about 14, 15 years old and getting headaches and bad ones. But fast forward, I won't give you all the gritty details along the way, but fast forward to age 21, I remember being at school, post-secondary school and college, and suffering from brutal headaches. And I went to a pharmacy, and the pharmacist, I described what I was going through, and the pharmacist said, well, have you ever taken these generic Tylenol ones? And I was like, I don't even know what those are. Tell me all about it. If they can help me, I'm all in. And he gave me a bottle of these, what they call generic Tylenol ones. It's not Tylenol brand, it's generic, but it has acetaminophen or paracetamol, depending where you are in the world, and some caffeine and some codeine. And that combination would help me. Did it help me? Yeah, it helped. It helped suppress pain that I was feeling on a daily basis. And especially when I was going to school, you know, like you're going to school, or it's no different than having a stressful job. You're sitting a lot, you're reading a lot, there's a lot of eye strain. So you're having to deal with things a little bit more maybe than usual, than when you're, you know, a teenager and you're running around doing sports all the time and riding your bike and all that. So I would say I took those pills and then I got used to a routine. Like, these things helped me, right? They weren't a cure, they were a mask on the pain. And what happened was, over time, I got used to it. I got used to that Band-Aid, if you will, masking that pain. And I ended up, you know, sometimes, you know how it is. If you've experienced this, I mean, I've never met anybody actually that has experienced this same kind of thing that I've had or had now. And I'll get into how that was resolved. But that's a bit of my background on how I, you know, how it progressed over time. And with taking those pills, I got used to those things, and they were the only thing that helped me over decades. I would say just after I turned 50, about 6 years ago now, I tried to transition away from those to ibuprofen, so like an Advil type of thing, because what I was finding was you see, it's never one thing. It's never one thing. It has to do, for me, it had to do with inflammation. It had to do with probably dehydration, among a whole bunch of other things. So, you know, as life happened, and family formation and careers and going to school and doing all the things that people do that you can, I'm sure, relate to, when you're dealing with pain, it makes you wonder, like, how much of my just daily thoughts and behaviors and how I navigated life and the world were affected by my pain, you know, these severe tension headaches. So fast forward again from there to age 55, and I kind of, you know, they say you have to create your own luck, and that is most certainly true, because I got lucky. I got extremely lucky. But I will say it's never one thing. That's what I found in life. It's like you think there might be one thing that works more than others to help you get through a problem or a particular struggle. But I will certainly say that I got extremely lucky. So I'll describe to you what happened. My wife was making the kids these smoothies for a couple of weeks. They were on this kick, and I benefited. She would say, "Hey, like, do you want leftovers of this, or do you want me to make you one?" And for the most part, I'm working from home, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Of course, yeah. Like, why would I say no to that? Sounds like a great idea." And when I talk about smoothies, I'm not talking about ice cream and orange juice. Okay, it's really healthy ingredients. And this is not a video about smoothies per se. Okay, it's just a little bit about how this played out. And I was doing this for about a week and a half, right? And a week and a half goes by, and every single time, about a half an hour in, after having this smoothie, I was having this sensation of a really cold, sort of very cool feeling, a good feeling. It wasn't brain freeze either. When you have something icy, it wasn't that. It was a really good feeling. So behind my head and over my head and in my face, especially around my eyes, I felt this real cool sort of sensation. And again, it felt really good. So it wasn't anything I was worried about. And probably I'd say about a week in, I was experiencing this feeling also in the back of my head that it was almost like a vibration. And it was a really good feeling. So of course, with all the new AI tools and everything like that, I went into AI and I put like all of my information in there. And, I've tried a million things over the period, over my life about, medical things, alternative healthcare strategies, medications, you name it. I've tried it. Nothing worked to date, right, at the time. So I put all that information into the AI, and it came back with really interesting information telling me that it was probably in the form of sort of vascular absorption of critically important nutrients and vitamins, and I guess in the form that I was consuming it, liquid, it was like a therapeutic level. And I would say that therapeutic level was transformational, and it changed my life. And when I reflect back, as you do, like, when you get into your 50s, 40s, 60s, whatever, you know what I mean? You're reflecting, you're thinking back on things. And I thought back on it. Well, it's a beautiful day. Sorry, while I pause here for a second. It's a beautiful day outside. And you think, if your child has a headache for 4 hours, you care, right? You love your child. You're concerned. You're worried. But it resolves itself. Let's say as an adult or a teenager, you're suffering from these on again, off again, pretty much daily pain things for 4 days, 4 months. You start seeking medical help, right? And I remember way back when, that's what I did. I sought medical help. I remember at least twice during my youth, being a young person and probably in my early 20s, having all these like sticky diodes with wires stuck all over my head, trying to figure out what's wrong with this kid's head. And to no avail, nothing ever came of it. But once you get into talking about years, it's profound, because it's even hard for me to wrap my head around 40 years of severe tension headaches. And it was that moment, I think it was March 14th of last year, that's what I coined my my pain liberation day from severe tension headaches. And it was clear to me, now I don't know exactly what it was, and I have suspicions, which I'll talk about here, which I mentioned a little bit before. I suspect that I was severely deficient in a lot of those things I listed earlier. Probably a lot of micronutrients, things I wasn't particularly getting maybe in the water that I was drinking. And of course, being my age when I was growing up, in North America, your form of water consumption in the summertime is walking around a neighborhood, and when you got thirsty, you go to the side of the house and run a hose. And hopefully it didn't have a nozzle on the end of it, or you'd almost take half your face off. So I never drank enough water in my life. And with the type of work that I had earlier in my career, getting up to have to run to the washroom too often wasn't really part of the plan. It wouldn't really help. So I kind of got into some probably bad physical habits. So you could say that a lot of this is due to me. It could be genetics, could just be the way that I was built, could be a lot of it would be my personal habits. But what a transformational change. And I've been 1 year now without suffering these brutal headaches. And life isn't perfect, like I'm 56, I got my aches and pains. I make mistakes. But solving something like that at my age, there's that saying, like you get a new lease on life. Man, look at this day, right? I don't have a headache. I'm out here going for a walk, talking to you. I never talked about this before either. See, that's the thing. That's another thing. You don't walk into a room and announce yourself to people you don't know, or even people you do, and go, "Hey, everybody, I got brutal headaches all the time." People would scatter. No one wants to know that. So you keep it to yourself. And I have, except for family and some close friends over time, just due to circumstance or interrupting my social life, or whatever it was, work. It's not something you talk about. And so here, this is an opportunity, after experiencing something so important and transformational and completely changing my life. And I couldn't care less. The fact that I'm 55 when it was 55 when it happened, and now I'm 56, it's like, who cares, man? It could have happened when I was 26, and then no one else would have ever known, and I would have forgot all about it by now. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the new lease on life, as I said, and I thanked my wife too for the smoothies. And here's a good side story. So there's another good side story, actually. So about a week and a half in, she was using this small blender, and this thing it couldn't handle these smoothies. They were throwing stuff in there, and the frozen fruits and everything like that, which is a good strategy too if you want to save some money. So we were doing that, and this thing, one day, it was almost on fire. I could smell the motor, and I said, this isn't going to work. So I was driving down. I said, I'm going to go down to Costco. So I was driving down to Costco with plans. There was one of these Ninja machines or whatever on sale. And I had the feeling, I'm driving along, and I had that cold feeling in my face. I called her, and this was around, I think it was that March 14th, Pain Liberation Day. And I said to her, I said, I have that feeling in my face and my head. And her response is kind of like, well, maybe you should get it checked out. And I said, no, I've done a lot of checking out in my life, and this is a good feeling, so I'm just going to go with it. And since then, I got that new machine, and I have doubled down, tripled down on health. And, like just removing inflammation, making sure hydration is good, and all the other effects, all the other positive effects that I felt like. First of all, the headache resolution was incredible. to resolve something that's going on for 4 decades. I mean, that's insane. And it was me that went through it. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, obviously, life changing. But now all these other positive benefits have happened. And yeah, I thought I wanted to share that at least about these headaches. And I don't know, maybe there's people out there that can relate to this stuff. If you know, I want to give you hope, because if it could happen for me, it could happen for you. And I know my situation is unique to me. I don't know if other people have experienced this the way that I have. So, but if you have, or you know somebody, or you have a child or a spouse or a parent or somebody, a friend that has gone through something like this and doesn't think that there's any hope, you just kind of normalize it. And it's unfortunate because, you know, it's like I said earlier, it's never one thing, and the same applies to health. Like if one thing's bad, sometimes other things happen that are bad, and you're not able to fix the real problem, the source problem. So thank you for listening if you've watched this far, and I will be making some more videos, obviously, to talk about all the other positive things that have happened for me now at age 56. And that's the story of how I finally ended 40 years of severe headache pain. Thanks. See you next time.